What's up, everybody? Brad Petty back again from NPi Entertainment. Today, I am sitting down with my buddy Jeff Allison, who is a longtime nightlife veteran or guru, if you will. Jeff, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Brad?
I'm good, man. I was thinking about this earlier today, the first time I met you, and I think I have it pinpointed. I was out with my buddy Mike Philly, and he said, "Hey, let's go check out Mercury Lounge." And I knew that was a venue that he was DJing at. He was a resident DJ at, but I had never been there, but I'd heard big and great things about it. And he looked me up and down and he said, "Man, I don't know if you can get in the way you're dressed." He's like, "I'm going to call Jeff, the manager." And he called you up and he said, "Hey, I'm with Brad. We want to come down to Mercury. He's never been there before. I don't know. He's dressed like this. I don't know what I was wearing. Maybe it was shorts or sneakers or a hat or something." And you were like, "Come on down. We'll get him in." We were at the door. I shook your hand, met you, and that was the first time I ever met you. And it was the first time I ever went to Mercury Lounge, which would become my favorite Cleveland club. So
that was like, 2000 when that happened, right?
It had to have been. And Philly was also working at Grand Puba's record shop where I was spending all my money.
Right.
I was there 3 days a week, dropping my paychecks, and I wanted to go check out where he played. So that's what happened. So let's talk about your beginning. You are not from Cleveland. Tell us about where are you from?
I grew up in a small town called Valparaiso, Indiana, and went on to Purdue. And my dream from the time I was 11 was to be a Major League Baseball player. I got 0 recruiting letters, no scouts, nothing. Went to Purdue because it was the state school I got into, being from Indiana, and tried out for the baseball team and became a baseball player. Got drafted and played a couple years for the Atlanta Braves in their single A team, short season team, long season team. So I played 2 years professionally. And then my Major League dreams kind of came to an end. But I had gotten a degree in restaurant hotel management from Purdue and bartending during off seasons and stuff. So once baseball was over, I just went back and got my bartending job. And that's what I was doing for money while I tried to figure out what to do after baseball. And then ended up going to Chicago, still working in the bar restaurant business. There was a really, really awesome club in Chicago called Shelter that was, hard to find, hard to get in. So that kind of like inspired me, like, wow, this is a whole lot different than a frat party. Shelter was a house club, so there was DJs, a couple different rooms, a couple different DJ booths and stuff. And I wasn't really paying attention too much to the DJs, but I certainly liked the scene around all of it.
And Shelter, for those who don't know, Shelter is a classic Chicago house club. A lot of DJs got their start there, and we're not going to go into the history of Shelter, but if you look it up online, there's crazy stories about it. A lot of legendary DJs play there.
I would say the equivalent of that in Cleveland was Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
Same giant warehouse, giant scale club. I mean, huge sound system, 1,000 people in the, a giant space that's been converted into something really cool.
Since I know you, I know that you were in Chicago, you were working in the service industry, nightlife, nightclubs, restaurants. You made your way to New York. Wasn't there a brief modeling career somewhere in between there?
That's how I got to Chicago. So I was working at a club in Indianapolis, and a friend of a friend introduced me to a photographer and said, you could do this. And so I had a friend from Purdue that was modeling in Chicago. So my friends in Indy got me to talked me into taking pictures. And then we showed them to the guy in Chicago, and I got a 2-year contract with a modeling agency in Chicago. And that's basically what got me to move there. And I was kind of bored with Indianapolis anyway. So I went to Chicago to give that a shot. And I was working in the bars and restaurants, at night and everything, and kind of moving to New York because it was more fun than Cleveland, or more fun than Chicago. I'll move to New York and pursue nothing. I'll just live there. That'll be fun, So
you went to New York,
right?
So were you modeling there, or just bartending?
No, yeah. I bartended and waited tables. I bartended and waited tables in Chicago. So I was just kind of in the bar restaurant business, not as a pursuit, but I just tried to work at the most fun, cool places I could get people to talk me into giving me a job. And, without any sort of a plan, just I'm absorbing all this stuff about the club industry, the restaurant industry, just the whole nightlife industry. I was in it, immersed in it, and just was sucking it up with no intention whatsoever.
What brought you to Cleveland?
So along the way, I met a ballerina. Right before I moved from Indianapolis to Chicago, I met this ballerina that was dancing for the Indianapolis Ballet, and we dated for a few weeks, or probably a couple of months maybe. And, she was fun, but I moved away, and then I ended up moving to New York, and I decided to look her back up, see how she was doing. And long story short, she ended up in New York, and then we started dating. And after a couple of years, I asked her to marry me, and she was from Cleveland. So after I married her, I moved here to get into the bar business as a profession, because I was like, wow, I've got a decade-long career and a degree, a lot of really good experience, great resumes, and I think I could probably do something cool in Cleveland. And I visited Cleveland a couple of times during the run-up to the wedding, and then was here for a week for the wedding. I was like, wow, Cleveland's got it going on, but somebody could do something that's a little different, somebody.
So what?
The Flats was cool, but
what year was this when you made it to Cleveland?
I got married in 94, moved here in February of 95.
All right, so 1995, the Flats are still super popular. That is the entertainment district in Cleveland. Yes. Insane. Like nobody has ever seen anything like it since. It was almost like, and I was pretty young then. I mean, I wasn't even going to the bars, but you could compare it to like a tourist town, or like New Orleans, or you know what I mean,
Branson, Missouri, or any of those just entertainment districts on a massive scale.
Right.
Both sides of the river, every place. There's probably 12 places maybe that are at least a capacity of 500 to 1,000 legal guests. Like 12 or 15 of those.
Right.
And probably 5 places that could do a couple hundred people. And all of them full.
And it was so popular that I would meet people around the country years later when it was over with, and they would still say, "Oh man, the Flats! How are the Flats? Do you hang out there?" And at this time, it was like, not even, didn't even exist.
So I moved into the Bradley building to open a bar with my now brother-in-law.
And this is West 6th Street, right?
West 6th, yeah. So Liquid's not there yet. The space on that corner was Fat Fish Blue at the time. Yeah, and so while I was visiting Cleveland one of the times, I walked into Fat Fish Blue and just kind of walked around and checked the place out. And at that point, we weren't even looking around thinking about, I was just being shown around Cleveland, and actually met Mozzie, not knowing who Mozzie was.
Mozzie is a longtime Cleveland-based DJ who travels the world collecting records, selling them to huge dealers and even some celebrities.
Exactly. So anyway, I met him, and who I run across again later when I came back, so I moved into that building, the Bradley building on the corner of West 6th, and with the intention of opening a bar downstairs. And we had rented a space, right on that main level between what is now, or what was Liquid is now Ivy.
Yeah.
And what was the Blind Pig. We were supposed to open it in between there, had a little squabble with the landlord. They gave us the space that became Dive Bar. So I came here to open a bar with my brother. That deal didn't work out. We ran out of money, didn't get to open, but in the interim of all that phase, Liquid opens in 95, and I'm living in the Bradley building. So Terry and his whole crew and all their extended friends and family became like the people I met when I moved to Cleveland.
So Liquid opens up and becomes sort of the mainstay of West 6th Street. This is when the Warehouse District is. Explain what the Warehouse District was like back then. Set the scene.
So half the spaces I would say were vacant, for rent signs. There was 3 different kind of suit stores, on all these empty storefronts. There was Visions, which is like a gay bar where they had the softcore porn on the TVs. Fat Fish becomes Liquid. And then there was like a little underground jazz bar, 6th Street Under Jazz Bar.
Yep.
Right? Johnny's Downtown, of course, was there. The corner that's now Bar Louie was a place called Piccolo Mondo. So there's a couple nice restaurants, a couple bars, and then what is now the RTA's headquarters was hilarities. So there's this comedy club, but I never, like, was only there, in and out on Friday, Saturday night for one show or whatever. So that didn't really have a lot of traffic. So it wasn't a really happening street. There was stuff, but it wasn't really the epicenter. Everyone's in the flats. Then Liquid opens, and now there's a whole new exciting thing to do. And yeah, I mean, everybody coming to Liquid had been going to the flats forever. So who wouldn't want something new and different to do? And then Blind Pig opens, not too long after. And same thing, same kind of second 2 degrees of separation friends that were in both bars. Everybody kind of knew everybody. They went back and forth and stuff. And the guy that opened Blind Pig and Terry knew each other, were friends. So now this whole network's developing, and that's,
And Terry is Terry Barbu, one of the guys behind Liquid Living. Liquid's open. Did you end up working for them?
So I'm living upstairs, and so I talked Terry into letting me DJ on Fridays because all they had was a jukebox. And I've told you the story before. So somebody would always put on the slow song off the new Pearl Jam CD. And at like somewhere around midnight, 12:30, and the whole place would empty out. I was like, hey, Terry, you should let me play CDs because I'll make sure that doesn't happen. And all I want is like a $50 bar tab because I'm kind of, and he knew I was in a squabble with my partner. I didn't have a job and kind of was short on money. So $50 bar tab at the hotel bar downstairs from my apartment was a good deal for me.
Right.
So anyway, so so I started DJing there on Fridays, and I was doing handiwork for him and everything. And as I'm DJing these shows on Fridays, or these parties on Fridays, I keep hearing, businessmen and property owners and guys with, businesses and have had a lot of cash available, offering Terry Barbu the chance to open whatever he wants. Dude, what do you want to open? You tell me where, you tell me what, I'll give you the money, we'll do it. And he's running Trilogy, which, Travels Becomes Trilogy. He's running Trilogy, he's running Liquid. They took over Whiskey Island back then and ran that for the summer. And so he's got a full plate. He's basically working 6 12s and maybe a 6-hour Sunday or a 6-hour, whatever slow day of the week is, right? So he's working every day. He cannot take on any more projects. So I said, hey, Terry, you saw what I almost opened. We've got to know each other a little bit. We're kind of similar. What if you said yes to one of those guys and I was the manager and did all this running around, was crazy busy, and you just did with the guys that you put up the money for your stuff, show up once a week. You could be the guy that shows up on Wednesday and gets the cash. And 2 weeks later, we rented a van and went to New York City, and we all took like a 3-day tour. I showed them all around Manhattan, the bars, the restaurants, the cool stuff, showed them everything and said, here's what's going on in New York. Here's what I think would work in Cleveland. And, but the audience, Terry, so, figure it out. So Spy's the bar that was planned because of that 3-day trip in that Ford van we rented.
All right.
So Spy opens in the July of '96.
So Spy was located where Barley House currently is.
Yeah, it's now Barley House. Exactly.
Yep. Okay, so right across the street from Liquid, which is now Ivy.
So now you've got 2 cool brand new bars with a crowd that's a little older than the flats, looking for an alternative. And now there's a nightclub, and it's a proper nightclub. And Cleveland hadn't seen that, but in the period since when I visited and when I was hanging out, in the 15, 16 months between getting here and Spy actually opening, you could go down to the flats and there'd be literally millions and millions of dollars in boats. I mean, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 boats and bunches of them. So there were people here with cash, but nobody was offering something that was the high end of the spectrum. And Spy was basically a proper dress code, velvet rope, doorman with a clipboard, done to New York standards nightclub.
Right, because you had the flats, it's almost like if you've been to Put-in-Bay, it's almost kind of like a Put-in-Bay type vibe. A lot of boaters, people in shorts, tank tops, whatever, buckets of beer, people just getting it's like a frat party, people getting wasted. Then you had Liquid, which was more like your neighborhood corner bar, Shot.
MTV. It was an MTV version. It was like a downtown MTV slick, cool, had
Right.
alternative rock music version of a bar. Instead of
Exactly.
just a neighborhood pub, they kind of they MTV'd it. It was fun. It was exciting. The music was
Yeah,
good. You know?
like a neighborhood pub with energy.
Right.
And then so now you launch Spy, which is across the street, and it's probably a quarter of a mile from the flats, but it's now a proper big city nightclub with a doorman and velvet ropes and candles and
Yeah, the whole place was candlelight level. The whole place.
right.
So, except
So
for right by the bar. You know.
so let's talk about Spy, because Spy was another one of my favorites. Classic club. I don't know if I actually ever went there when you were a part of it. It probably was before. I was probably in college in Columbus, but yeah, describe because I mean, even when I was in Columbus, I would hear about Spy.
You know, you're out there, you're out front. You have to be dressed appropriately to get past the doorman, and then you walk into the little vestibule that we created, and there's no door. So you don't know how to get in. So like your first impression of the place is you have to figure out which wall opens like an amusement at Disney. How the hell do I get in here? One of these panels opens. So you walk in, and then the whole place looked like the clue board had been built. And
Yeah, that's a
clue board.
That's a great, it's a great description.
Yeah, and I think the thing that made Spies work and made it catch and made it special wasn't the false pretense of a dress code and a velvet rope, and you know, it wasn't about the doorman supposed to make you feel less than, or you know, make the people who can't get in or stuck outside feel like they're. It was never the whole thing that made it work to me was once you figured out how to push that wall open, you felt like you'd walked through that door and you left Cleveland. Cleveland's outside.
Right.
In here, I've been transported somewhere. I don't know where, but I don't feel like I'm still in Cleveland. I think that's what made it, you know, you felt like you were transported somewhere else. I'm not here. Wow, this is awesome. I feel like I got on a plane, except I slept through that whole thing. I just walked to the door and now I'm here. And I think that's probably the thing, you know, we can get into all the details of all the stuff that went on, but ultimately I think that's what, when you walked through there, you just didn't feel like you were in Cleveland, not in the same way. Music was different each day. And you know, you know, back then, and, you know, for probably the next 10 or 15 years, I mean, all places that were true nightlife places, you had a different type of music each night, targeting a different audience with different flyers and different, you know, so we did salsa night on Wednesday and we had salsa lessons, and then Thursdays, Mike Philly would spin like laid back drum and bass. I'd just sit and enjoy this, you know, beautiful room and the low light. And Fridays, you know, more familiar songs. And then Saturday was Robin Harris playing house. So we opened in July of 96. In the spring of 97, we started doing like an industry night on Sunday, playing like down tempo. So, you know, you had a different crowd and a different audience each night of the week with a little bit different musical vibe, but every night you still got that feeling of, wow, I walked in this place and it's like, wow, it's just feel like, you know, like walked into some other, you know, I get to leave my troubles at the door and just enjoy this for now, you know.
It's funny too, because you're talking about Wednesday through Sunday, and now most venues are lucky if they have 2 busy nights, and you guys were doing it, you know, the majority of the week.
Yeah, so when it really got busy, so like I said, I started that party on Sundays in the spring of 97, and probably mid-March. And by Memorial Day weekend, which is, you know, the end of May, so what's that, like 10 weeks? It was packed every Sunday. I mean, it was a good night. And then in July of 97, we started doing swing night on Thursday. And that, by the third week, was like there was a line down the block from the front door all the way to that parking lot going toward St. Clair. There was like 150 kids outside at 7 p.m. on a Thursday night.
Could anybody who went to Spy, if they're dressed up, get in? Or was the door guy picking and choosing people?
So there was a straight dress code, like you couldn't wear tennis shoes, you couldn't wear jeans. There was a list, but you weren't required to be on a list. If there was room in the club, you paid $5, you were in. We try to be welcoming. There are rules. There is a dress code. The dress code is not to make you feel bad about how you're dressed. It's so that everybody inside is going to feel like we're of like mind.
Right.
I mean, I tell people when I would turn them away, look, you can go home and get clothes right now and I'll let you in free. But I don't owe anything to you. You're outside. I owe everything to the people inside. My job is to make them have a great time.
Sure.
So if I put together a room and, but now on Sunday, we went the other way. It was an industry night. Everybody in the industry worked all weekend. So there was no dress code on Sunday, but you had to know to go around the back door because it looked like the club was closed.
Right. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, talk about that. Because that actually, when I think about the first time I heard about SPI, it was from my girlfriend at the time. And that's what she talked about was Sunday nights, because she was a bartender. Right. And she was like, yeah, we all go to SPI on Sundays and you got to go down this alley, blah, blah, blah. So what was that like? So
I worked, here I am new to Cleveland. SPI opens, it's great. So and I've been through some trials and tribulations. The marriage to the ballerina was a total crash. The partnership with the brother-in-law, it did not go well. So finally I've been in Cleveland for a year and a half and things are like, wow, things are great now. Things are fun. And I just worked all week and now I'm off on Sunday night, and you would go to Trilogy, which is packed and, huge club and all this. And it's just not my vibe. I smoke.
So Trilogy was a giant warehouse type club in the flats, but away from those that was the West Bank of the Flats, right?
West Bank of the Flats, like basically right across the street from McCarthy's. What's McCarthy's and right. The Harbor Inn now. It was right there.
Yeah.
Huge club, really fun. I mean, awesome. It was a great club. It was the Shelter in Cleveland.
And just a little sidebar about that venue. People would travel from other states to go there on Sunday nights. So you'd have people coming from Pennsylvania, New York, wherever. So yeah, it was a draw. It was big.
Yeah, it was a cool place. But by the time I'd moved to Cleveland, I was already 30 or 30. Now I'm probably 31 at this point, and it just wasn't my scene. Everybody there's 10 years younger than me, and I wanted something more chill. I just busted my hump all week. I want to sit on my ass, drink a nice lambic or a Belgian beer or something, smoke a little kind, and relax, So it's like, well, there's no bar for me to go to. I guess I'll open the bar on Sundays,
Right.
Do it like something that I think is fun. And I also knew that the industry crowd was looking for something else to do. And they were kind of mad because of the dress code, because they didn't feel like they should have to dress up. I don't know why that was the collective opinion, but I thought, okay, we'll make a night for them. They don't have to dress up. We'll make the night all about them. Then they'll forgive us for us making money Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Right.
So yeah, and that's kind of where I learned Robin Harris is the one that taught me how to beat mix. And then right about that time, I had bought that first Thievery Corporation. I bought the CD first at Borders Books out there in Westlake. Mm-hmm. And found that first Thievery Corporation record. And I was already kind of into acid jazz and the slower stuff like Portishead, the down-tempo side of things, more Chiba. But then I found Thievery Corporation, and Robin taught me how to beat mix. And I started figuring out that, wow, there's a whole DJ scene of people that beat mix records in the side of the music that I'm into. So that was kind of the musical vibe on Sundays that we started doing.
And just a little side note, this era of music, for people who want to check it out, some artists to check out would be like Mark Farina, Mushroom Jazz, anything by Thievery Corporation. Their label is 18th Street Lounge.
The whole catalog.
Ubiquity Records, DJ Crush, DJ Shadow. Look for genres: trip hop, down tempo, acid jazz,
acid jazz, right?
Yeah,
yeah. So we're doing that whole. That was the musical vibe. It was like you had to be in the know to know how to walk down through the parking lot, around the back, come in the back door. It looked like the lights were off, doors were locked. It looked like the place wasn't open. And so, yeah, that party was fun, really fun. And it was kind of the inspiration behind Mercury, actually.
All right. So all parties have to come to an end. And you just mentioned Mercury. So talk about, how did you transition from Spy to Mercury Lounge?
So I've been at Spy 3 years. I've tripled the investors, and what they put in, they'd gotten back twice. Terry Barbu, who was the guy who put the deal together, and he'd already sold his piece of the club and was opening. By this time, he had opened a club across the street called Wish, which was designed to compete directly with Spy and steal as much of our business as he could. Anyway, so now I'm completely running everything, and you guys got tripled your money. I just say, yeah, you should make me a partner, guys. If we were lawyers, it would be your name, and my name by the door. Just put my name on the door, and they just couldn't figure out how to do it. And I gave them 60 days to work it out, and 60 days came and went. And so I gave my notice, and I moved down the street and opened Mercury as a partner, not just the manager. So between Spy opening, now 3 years has gone by, and now West 6th Street, that block is, other places have opened. And now you've got Blue Point's open, really nice restaurant. Piccolo Mondo's changed to something else. Johnny's is still there. So now people are driving down. The Warehouse District's kind of really blossomed. People would drive down 8 o'clock, park their car, go to a nice dinner, then bounce there was a wine bar over on St. Clair. And now they would go get drinks after dinner. And then now you've got the little gay bar Visions had turned into a really cool little high energy nightclub called Groovy Little Nightclub. Blind Pig now has a dance club in the basement. Wish is open down the alley. Velvet Dog has opened. So now there's multiple places where you can go pay $5 at 11 or 11:30, pay the $5 cover and go dance. So now that's a whole thing that's going on downtown. And I thought the places that I really liked in New York, which is the places that I showed those guys when we went on that 3-day trip, weren't really dance clubs. They were lounges. And so I thought, all right, so I like the Sunday thing. Clearly it works. There's an audience for it. And now there's all these other clubs that are just trying to be a variation of Spy, like, Velvet Dog was Spy for the basement crowd, right? Wish was Spy for the trilogy crowd.
Yeah.
It's a variation on theme. And I'm like, all right, so people go to dinner, then they're going to Blind Pig and Liquid. What if somebody gave them a spot to go to after dinner what if Spy's my club? Well, what if I go to a place in between that's on the same scale? I'm going to be dressed up for dinner, drinks, and dancing. But that middle bar is this cool upscale lounge, same caliber, same New York roots, same quality of service and product and atmosphere, but no cover, no dance floor, but a DJ.
Right.
Right. And then same thing, like Thursday night DJ, Friday night DJ, Saturday night DJ, eventually Sunday DJ, maybe a little bit different vibe each night because the DJ is not the same.
And now you at this time had learned to become a DJ, so
Right.
You actually had even more of a role in the playing of the music.
Yeah, so I've been the opening DJ on that Sunday party at Spy. I was actually the only DJ at first, and then the party got big enough that I would start, and I ended up, other people got, the house music slot and the hip hop slot. So, but I've learned to mix music, and I've been collecting records, and I actually visited the 18th Street Lounge, which is the club Thievery Corporation has in DC, where their record labels housed and their recording studios housed, and it's one of the coolest bars I've ever been to, and I've traveled a lot, and studying this business for decades, and that's still one of my top 3 bars ever. And so the way they DJ'd was, start at 82 BPM or 88, start very slow, reggae, slow hip hop kind of feel, and then build the tempo throughout the night, now at peak hours when the energy's up and the place is jamming. Now you're at 118 or 122 BPM, not quite, thumping club music. It's not club bangers, but it's house tempo. And then as the bar it gets later and the bar starts to wind down, the tempo comes back down. So that's kind of that's the way I, did my Friday nights at Mercury when it was new. And then Saturday was straight up like, a house DJ. And Mike Philly was the house DJ. So how can you go wrong,
Right. So Mike Philly was with you at Spy, and then he came over to Mercury Lounge as well.
Yep.
And also we should note that you guys are playing records during this time. So this isn't like 2020.
There was no CDJs. None of that existed.
Yeah. So
there were CD players that could play 2 CDs and you could fade back and forth, but you really couldn't pitch them and properly DJ.
Yeah, it wasn't like the equipment that we use now. And also the crowds were different because the crowds wouldn't come in and say, hey, play this song and shove their phone in your face and with a Spotify song on it. They showed up.
Get the songs. They had to go buy the record.
Yeah, that was one thing. Exactly. That was one thing that made it really unique back then. As a clubber, was you would go to the venue and listen to the DJ and the records that he had brought with him, he or she. They would bring 2 or 3 crates of records, and that's what you listened. That's what you heard. You couldn't go up and request some random song that didn't fit into their repertoire.
Or fit the vibe of the room at the time.
Or you wouldn't just change the whole vibe of the room because you had to hear your song right then. And then what was also interesting was, these different DJs would have a sound and people would follow them around. And a style. Right. So they would say, oh, Mike Philly's playing at Mercury Lounge on Saturday night. Like, oh, I love, he plays.
He has a feel.
He plays those Ben Watt remixes or those, whatever. Right. And they might only ever hear that song on that night.
Right. Or from
because they're not buying vinyl. So, and there's nowhere else to hear this music.
They don't know where to get the vinyl.
Right.
You can't get it on your phone online.
Right. So it was for music, it was a really special time. And being a DJ back then, it was really fun because I remember I would take my request record would be one Michael Jackson record that I would stick in my crate because inevitably there would be the Michael Jackson request. And I remember rolling my eyes back then. Now, like if I have a request from Michael Jackson, like I love it because I love playing his music. But back then it was like, oh my God, the Michael Jackson request. Fortunately, I brought my whatever record. So you're at Mercury Lounge. How long were you there?
So I started, I left Spy maybe October of 99. So we started construction pretty much a month later on Mercury. Opened in maybe the late spring of 2000. And then maybe 18 months later, I didn't get along with my partners. Well, I mean, the father, the money guy, he was fine, but his son came in the deal, and the Ted Jr. and me were like vinegar and oil, man. We tasted good together, but we were always gonna go our separate ways, man.
Well, you guys put together. The clients wouldn't have noticed because you guys put together a good product.
Right. Yeah, but we butted heads all day long, and it's fine. I just, so I was there about 18 months, and I just decided I just wasn't happy working there. And I kind of always had the attitude when I decided to do this career was, if I'm not learning something, I guess I probably actually thought this way even when I was just working in it, not without any goals. If I'm not learning something, or I'm not able to make more money, I'm not growing, so I don't need to be here anymore. So when Mercury kind of got to the point where I'm not getting anything out of this. I mean, I'm kind of maxed out on the money. This would work out. I would love to stay here and it's going to be great. but I'm not learning anything but things I don't want to know because this is about dysfunctional stuff.
Right.
And I'm kind of, so this is kind of a plateau and it's not a fun one. So I just decided to walk away and figured there'd be something else,
What year was that?
2001.
All right, 2001. So at this point, the flats, I always like to say the flats went up the hill. They migrated to West 6th Street. West 6th Street now is the destination. So what's next? Where did you go to next?
So during the 6 months when I was, doing construction every day on SPI, I worked at a bar called Brillo Pad, which is the coolest place that I found when I moved from New York to Cleveland. It was this really hip little underground bar in the area that's now Gordon Square. So I ended up talking the guy that owns that place into giving me a job. Took about a month of me bugging the crap out of it. But got a job there because I needed to do something and I might as well be someplace I want to be, and worked there. And so, the guys that were kind of like instrumental in putting that place together had put a place together in Ohio City called Touch Supper Club. And they'd opened it, but it hadn't gone the way they had hoped. And they were kind of looking to move on. So they found out that I had left Mercury and showed up in my backyard one afternoon and said, "Hey, would you be interested in taking a look at this place?" And so about that same time, the guy who had always put up the money for all the things that Terry Barbu had done and was the main partner and the financier behind all of what became Liquid Living, Joe Phillips, had just sold his controlling interest in Trilogy right about the same time. So he and I went partners and bought Touch Supper Club from Doug Berg and Mazi Jahi. And so now October of 2001, I'm in Ohio City and I'm at Touch Supper Club.
Touch is which it's still around. It's located on the corner of 28th and Lorraine Avenue in Ohio City, which is super popular. We're talking about all these different hotspots, these different entertainment districts. Now West 25th Street, the Ohio City area is super popular. But at this time, describe Ohio City.
Ghost town. Like the only thing going on, Great Lakes was open, probably been open for 4 or 5 years. So that little little block market, and then there was the little wine coffee bar across the street. And it's now called Flying Fig. Back then it was called Kika.
Yeah.
There was a little, that little block was going good. All of 25th was kind of half full with all kind of low end ethnic restaurants that were, I don't know, moderate. At least there was, several places it was not it was not a good destination. I couldn't get anybody who I knew in Cleveland, besides Joe, who's, he's got a little bit different vision on stuff. No one else was interested in investing any money in Ohio City because it was basically considered to be an extension of the project.
Yeah, you wouldn't really go hang out there.
And the West Side Market, no one was talking about the West Side Market because the foodie culture thing had not really taken off yet.
Yeah, this is prior to celebrity chefs and everybody being super interested in.
Nobody cared.
So you went from SPI, which was this exclusive nightclub, velvet rope. You had to dress up to get in. It was the first of its kind on the street. Then you went to Mercury Lounge. Then you cross the bridge and you go over to Ohio City to right off of 25th, 28th and Lorraine.
Right.
And you take over. You didn't, so it already existed, but you took over Touch Supper Club.
Right. So I kind of just, I still, to this day, it's the same room, same decor. I mean, they did a good job. They found a good space. They did a good job with it. So I didn't really do any major changes to the look of the place. I did kind of rebuild the downstairs because the bar didn't function down there. So we kind of did a quick little remodel to make the basement, make sure everything flowed and worked well together. But nothing crazy. And so now here we are, the new thing in Cleveland, but we're across the bridge from the Warehouse District. And now the
Right,
Warehouse District is everything.
which in Cleveland, you can be one street away from the action. Like, for example, West 9th Street to West 6th Street. You can be one street away, and it can be a death sentence.
House of Q's.
Right. I mean, you can be around the corner.
Right around the corner.
And it's like you might as well be in another county.
Siberia. Right.
Right. So you went over to Ohio City, which again, it's not like today's Ohio City. What was
it was it. We were it.
Right. So what were you trying to do?
So I wasn't sure exactly. I just felt like, okay, I know what I wanted to do at Mercury. I know what I would have done there. Now I can do those things. So just like I've always done, I've always programmed all these places around having a different target audience who likes a different music-based programming. So,
wait, let's stop there for a sec.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of people do that these days. Now it's based around
food.
A craft beer or a certain, or, a type of food,
right.
Or
even the breweries are food-based businesses. Now that people, their idea is open a brew pub. The brew pub is run off of the kitchen, and the idea is to build your reputation. Then they build a production brewery and sell in the grocery stores. That's where the real money is.
Right.
But you're still starting with that same food-based type of business model.
So it's interesting because, I mean, obviously I'm a DJ. I love music. So you're putting together these venues like with the same thought, like you are figuring out what these customers want to listen to and creating an experience around it.
Yeah. Just give them something, give them music they love, treat them well, make them feel special, serve them good stuff at fair prices, be good at repetition and being professional, and create a vibe. That was our product.
Right. So talk about the music and like the vibe at Touch Supper Club, because this was a lot different than your previous venues.
Yes. So it was, 2 floors. The dance floor was in the basement. It was just a tiny little bar and a DJ wedged in the corner, and then just a dark, low ceiling room where you could just let go and dance without having to worry if anybody could see you or watch you. You were just like, you could let go. So that was the lower level. And then the upstairs, there was a kitchen. We had a menu and all that stuff. The food craze hadn't really kicked in yet. So the menu and all that really wasn't really a draw. We kept doing it. We tried to keep the standards and everything, but we just were probably a little ahead of the game, and, trying to do a place that had food and music doesn't really,
Back then people ate because they kind of had to.
Right. And then with the music.
Right. They had to eat because they were going to be drinking and dancing and staying out all night.
Right.
But it wasn't really like the primary focus.
No, it wasn't. The evening wasn't planned around it. Exactly. Right. So we were trying to do that, but that part wasn't really taken off or doing much for the business, but it was part of the supper club, theme. And, so what I figured out pretty quickly, there was a monthly event called Shift, which was these 2, cool young girls that were bringing in the best techno DJs that they could book. And it was a cool party. The people that were going to it were really into it. They understood the music. The DJs that they were bringing in had records at Grand Poobahs these were relevant, current DJs that were actually, making music, selling music, touring. And so one of the things that before I would close the deal was like, well, that party has to stay. They have to stay because it's part of what makes the place, go. So I was able to convince them to stay, let them keep doing their party. And then, so I kind of just figured out, well, let's do, DJ-based, guest DJ-based parties on Saturdays. And then on Fridays, I installed, there happened to be like 5 or 6 really good caliber working Latin/salsa bands there was a whole scene around these bands. And so I booked one of those bands and shoved them in the corner of the basement. and
And
it
for
was packed.
and for people who have never been to Touch, a salsa band
There's
in
like
that
6 or 8
basement,
pieces.
it seems crazy because it seems like if you looked at the basement, you might think the whole room's going to be filled by the band. It's small. It's
It
like
took up like a
somebody's
third of the room,
yeah. It's like having a basement house party.
Right. Yeah. So like basically the business would be 1/4 band, 1/4 the bar, and then in the middle was the people.
Right. Yeah.
So, but that was really good. I mean, the place would be packed down there. There'd be like people who really, really know how to dance live to a live band. I mean, it was a cool scene. It was packed every Friday. So that kind of worked. Friday, Saturday was going pretty good. And so, and I do remember meeting you, like when you said when we first met, but then when I really kind of met you as a person and started collaborating with you and getting to know you was when you and Sean Carson and, when we met at Sean's house and we started putting on that nitty-gritty event with Jude.
Yep. So I met you at Mercury Lounge for the first time, but when I really got to know you was when you took over Touch. And I actually had been DJing at Touch when Doug was the owner. I think I had DJ'd a back room for the shift party, playing like down tempo or something upstairs in that back little lounge. And then you came on like soon after the first time I had played there. And then, that's when I really got to know you.
Exactly. So that was kind of like our rotation. So Nitty Gritty was one Saturday every month. Shift was another Saturday. So you got down tempo, techno. Then I started doing a Chicago. So because I figured so Shift to me was Detroit. Based on Detroit, that side of house music. And so I did a Saturday every month where that was based on the Chicago side of house music as much as I could do that.
Yeah.
And then I kind of, whatever the best other thing I could book on that other Saturday. That was kind of thing, but we were doing events. Like it wasn't just go to the bar.
Right.
There's something going on. And we were bringing in, top level touring DJs in multiple genres. And because what we were doing was actually relevant culturally, even outside of Cleveland, we were always in the Plain Dealer and Friday Magazine and, this is going on around town. And so Touch got a ton of press because what we were doing was culturally relevant.
Yeah, because a lot of people who don't go to clubs, they don't even know this world. They don't go to their local bar and there's some guy spinning records who lives in Chicago or Detroit or Germany. But that's what you were doing there.
Right. That was going good. We were a little bit ahead of the game, so we were packed every Friday and Saturday, but I wouldn't really get busy till 11:30, 12 o'clock. So we were just making bills. We weren't really profitable. We were like really, really, it was a great bar. It was fun. It was relevant, but it just wasn't paying back the investment. And so from that perspective, it was challenging, And when you own
a venue, that is the last stop of the bar hop night, it's tough to keep going because everyone has spent their money at the restaurant and then 3 or 4 bars that they hit, and then they say, "Hey, I want to go dancing. Let's go to Touch." And at this point, they're already drunk.
Right.
And they may have 1 or 2 more drinks left in them.
2. They would have 2.
Yeah, they have 2 drinks left.
And they'd pay $5 to get in, but I spent all that on the entertainment.
Yeah, so all that money at the door that they're bitching about paying you is going to the DJ or the band.
And sometimes even more.
Right. So people watching this who bitch about covers, just remember that cover is going to the entertainment.
I spent it on you guys.
It's going to entertain you. It's not going into the owner's pocket.
Right.
It's
There you
like
go.
the jukebox. Like you're basically giving your jukebox money to the door guy. So
Exactly. It's a jukebox
yeah,
with musicians.
yeah, with better music.
So now it's 2004. Things have grown. We're actually starting to turn the corner. I think, if we'd have just kept going, we would have started turning a profit and would have just kept going. And, but Joe Phillips, the financing behind the business, just was not amenable to just having that much money parked in one spot and not earning money. So he decided to pull the plug and move that money somewhere else and take the tax breaks. And so he decided that, let's just close at the end of May and, we'll go our separate ways, no hard feelings, it's all good. And so Joe decided to take the loss.
Gotcha. Okay.
I never saw that coming, and, touch is still there.
Right. Yeah. How many years later? Still going.
Yeah, so in 2004, that's 16 years, that gives it a 19-year history, and it's exactly the same.
Right. It looks the same.
Robert's still ultimately still trying to do the same exact idea that it was when I had it. When he bought it from us, I said, you should at least change the name because it's already been, you're on the third owner of the same idea. It didn't work twice. You should at least change the name and make it yours. He goes, no, dude, people love touch.
It's funny.
And he was
Robert,
right.
who is the current owner.
Yeah.
I still remember he called me because I knew him. He had bought Wish, which we haven't really we touched on, but he bought Wish at one point, which was on Warehouse District. But he called me the day that he bought Touch, and the first thing I said was, "What are you going to rename it?" And
right.
he said, "What do you mean? We got to keep it, or I got to keep it Touch. Like people love it." And I'm like, I don't know, man. I think you should rename it, but.
Yeah, I would have, but I think he was right in the end. I mean, he understood that. I mean, he's right. The audience really did feel it. They loved it. They did love it. I mean, come on, Brad. I mean, and I'm sorry, but Nitty Gritty to me was a huge part of why people loved it the way they did. That was my favorite night I've ever done in any club ever. That was my Sunday party at Spy turned into a touring DJ night.
Yeah, so Nitty Gritty was a night that me and my partner Sean Carson and Jude Gergen and Jeff put together, where we brought DJs from basically around the world who came in and played music along a certain line, like down tempo and broken beat, new jazz and deep house and hip hop and funk and soul and all that good stuff. And it was a fun party that lasted for a couple years, and it was cool. Joe leaves. You're done. What's next?
Well, so a couple years go by, we're still trying to do the DJ Saturdays and the Salsa Fridays. And so then we figured out maybe in 2003, a guy that I knew introduced me to a gentleman named Marty Jeremita from 1300 Gallery, who said, you should do a rock night on Thursday. Oh, okay. Different music, different crowd. We need something to do on Thursday. And so now we're doing rock night on Thursdays at Touch, and it takes off. By the third week, it's packed. It's fun as hell. And I met this whole new audience of people. I'm like, holy crap, these guys are a blast.
Wait. So real quick. So Marty and 1300 Gallery. 1300 Gallery was located at the 78th Street building, which is now called 78th Street Studios. People go there for third Fridays, and it's a Hedge galleries there and smart space. And actually, I do a lot of weddings there. Shout out to Hillary. And Marty had a gallery there that was super popular. And actually, I used to DJ a lot of the parties there, a lot of the art openings. And it was a legendary space. And Marty went on to become Derek Hess's manager.
Right. We're still partners to this day.
Derek Hess is a famous artist based out of Cleveland, who has international recognition, and he's a big deal. So,
And
all right, so
still has a gallery in that same building.
yeah, he's still there. So you bring in Marty. You guys kick off this.
Marty brings in Rock Night, brings in Larry Sim to DJ, and now he's bringing in little 2- and 3-piece bands to play and stuff. And so I kind of ran into that some of that same crowd from the Swing Night at Spy way back in the day, like this whole live music underground scene. And the thing I kind of realized, wow, all the places they go that they really, really frequent are in odd locations. Grog Shop was at the end of Coventry before it moved to its new location. That was kind of a strange spot. There was nowhere else to go around that bar. Beachland, there's nowhere else, or there was no other bars around the Beachland. There was no other bars around Peabody's, no other bars around all the places the rock crowd would go, like the Foundry. Right. So there were all these isolated locations. And on the corner of 25th and Bridge, there was a guy I used to rent an apartment from, had bought that building and was trying to get me to open a bar with him on the corner of 25th and Bridge, which is now Nano Brew. So I'm having this conversation in 2003, 2004 with the guy that owned that building about trying to put a bar over there. And that project is moving down the line, and couldn't find the money. And so maybe a couple months before Joe decides to just close up shop on Touch, we kind of were able to put together the financing and finalize the deal to start building some sort of a bar on the corner of 25th and Bridge. And I was hoping that by having another bar on this side of the bridge, I'd have that many more people over the bridge earlier. And now Touch will be busier an hour earlier, and suddenly we're making money.
Right, you get their early spending and those last couple drinks.
And even if the new bar only breaks even, all in all, I was break even over here. Now I'm breaking over here, and I'm making money. I'm still ahead of the game. So This is all good. So suddenly Joe closes Touch, so now I spend the summer of 2004 building the new bar, which ends up being the Garage Bar. And it was the theme, the plan, the audience that I thought about as I put that together over that summer was that Thursday audience from Touch. Like that
which is
people. I'm like, they like this bar.
It's cool how all these different things in your life led to the next. Like, your experience in Chicago and New York led to what you're doing at ultimately Spy, and then Mercury, and then you went to Touch, and all these different musical influences and nightclubs and whatnot, and then events at Touch led to what you did at the Garage Bar, which is a really popular spot. So Garage Bar was, like you said, where Nano Brew currently is, on the corner of 25th and I don't know, what is that street there?
25th Bridge. Yeah.
Yeah. So right there in the heart of Ohio City on 25th, across from ABC. And at this time, you were like probably one of the first ones in this new era of nightlife on 25th, right?
I would say maybe within the 6 months before Garage opened, remember Moda?
Yeah.
Which now the giant ice cream factory on West 25th was this Miami/Vegas caliber nightclub. Mm-hmm. They spent, I don't know how much money. They laid this place out. It was built out. It was like somebody took Trilogy and put $2 million and really made it fancy.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a hit in terms of it didn't have an audience. Like what it was didn't really have an audience more than maybe, once or twice a month to really fill the place and, make it all that. But it did help bring people to the neighborhood and show them that, well, the Sabres is not dangerous. It's okay. It's over here. And then Old Angle opens, which is still there. And then Garage opens in the Labor Day weekend of 2004. So now you've got 3 new bars on that corner and now making some noise. And now a lot of people are coming over the bridge because this is now the neighborhood's kind of, we fast forward 3 years from when I first got over there. Now people are thinking maybe this neighborhood is not so bad.
Right.
So the crowd's starting to move, just like they moved up the hill. Now they're starting to come over the bridge sooner. Now this maybe is a new destination.
So Garage Bar, you basically took that rock night and turned it into a venue.
Concepts.
Yeah.
And really I just thought, okay, that's an audience that won't mind that the bar's on this corner, because the complaint that I heard over and over and over was like, yeah, I hang out in the Warehouse District, like this is the projects. This is not, I don't feel safe over here. I don't like this area. It's not my thing. And I knew that the crowd that came on Thursdays for the rock night, they didn't care where their bar was. They wanted to go where where's my people?
Right.
People rage just like me. They just go out and rock out. And these guys know how to have fun and just go all out. Let's do music and go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're Cleveland. So I knew they wouldn't care what bar was on that corner. You just make a bar for them, they'll go.
How successful was that bar? What?
I mean, it worked. It was as equally successful as Spy was and Mercury Lounge was, in the sense that, when you put together one of these projects, you have a budget going in. I mean, you're talking, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 you have to spend to open. You can't do that, like, hey, I need more money. You have to know what it's going to cost, where it's being spent. And so how I judged all these as a business is, can I get my investment capital back in 36 months? If you do that right, you hit the home run.
3 years seems to be like the
magic number.
Right. For
anything. Cash in, cash out. 3 years.
Right. So if you make it 3 years, you cover your costs, you start making money, you're good.
I mean, or let's say you open with a 3-year, you know what's just going to cost you to open. You know what it'll cost you to pay your staff, and you know what your rent is. You've got a general idea what your utilities will be. You know your basic costs. And let's say over the course of that 3 years, you only make half your money back. You still have a business, a lease, a location, and a fresh start for the next guy. And he didn't have to finance anything. He just has to come in, buy in 50 cents on the dollar, and you're out and you're even.
Right.
So if you can do that, it's kind of like that. To me, that's the balance. You either are profitable or you break even. That's not a gamble.
What would you tell somebody interested in getting into the bar business or nightclubs or restaurants or whatever? What advice would you give them?
Don't.
Other than that.
What's funny is, like, if you'd asked me that 2 months ago, I probably would have had an answer that was more relevant. I feel like I don't know what's next. Kind of, what do you think's next after all of this? I know a huge outside would be a good idea.
Well, and what you're referring to is we're in the midst of the coronavirus.
COVID-19. Right.
COVID-19, we're all stuck at home and no one's going out. Okay, let's pretend this isn't going on. What advice would you give somebody?
Before I would answer the question, I would ask them one question, like, so exactly why do you want to do this? Because it's not really necessarily the brightest move if you're interested in money.
Right. There's a lot easier ways to make money.
Yes. And this isn't a job, it's a life. It's like you live it. So you better really like it.
If you're doing this for quick money or to impress your friends,
Yeah, if you
So,
want to make quick money, sell drugs.
or
Get in, get out.
or just get a job, like a regular job,
Yes,
because you'll
yeah.
probably
Get a
make more money.
master's degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a master's degree in tomfoolery.
Right.
Anyway, I would want to know why do you really want to do this? Because I mean, it's got to be a passion, and you have to be able. And then I would want to know what's your emotional temperament, because you have to be able to ride the ups and downs. It's not all going to be, you're going to have a great event planned, and the night's going to be lined up, and you got bad weather, and you're going to lose money, and you didn't do anything wrong. If you can't weather that, do something else. So I want to know why you want to do it and what's your mentality. And if they don't answer those questions right, I'm not telling them anything, because I don't want them to open a bar. It's just going to be bad for everyone. There's way too many places already.
Yeah, there are. So do you think you're ever going to get back into it?
I don't fantasize about it. I would. I'm open to it. But the reason I haven't tried or haven't been actively pursuing it is because I only know how to do it based on music.
Right.
I only know how to do a music programmed place. And I don't think that there's anybody who is waiting for someone to do that. My gut, I don't feel like I hear enough noise, whether it's on social media or in the comment sections or in conversation I have. I don't feel like, man, I wish somebody opened a bar like cool music. I don't hear anybody longing. I wish somebody would open me a dance floor. People aren't talking about it. And I wish they would. I mean, I would absolutely love to be the person that grabs that wave when it comes. I just don't hear it yet.
Yeah, I don't either. But the one thing I will say is during this whole COVID-19, the one thing that seems to be getting a lot of people through it is music and
Right.
going online and listening to DJs and bands and revisiting old music that they grew up with. And
Right.
and I see talks of, we were talking about, there's that page on that new group on Facebook talking about the old club scene and pictures and
Yeah,
what's that?
Cleveland Nightlife Scrapbook.
Yeah, so shout out to them.
Yeah, people have been celebrating that whole thing.
People are kind of like feeling like, nostalgic and looking at these old fun times and trying to, think back to the good old days. And I wonder if when we get through this, if we're going to see sort of a revitalization of that era that we loved.
Yeah, so I guess to revisit your question, I don't think I would try to go out of my way to help somebody else open a venue. I think it'd be more fun, just from where I'm viewing things now, to just throw some good events, because I just don't know if there's enough interest for there to be a bar that's open several days a week. I just don't know if people,
I think there's more of a demand for actually promoters
work.
Well, for good parties, but also put together by promoters. That always seems to be something lacking, and I think there's always a need for people to organize good events and put those together. There's plenty of people who are good at putting together bars and restaurants and have the capital to do so, but there's not a lot of creatives who will go out there and get together the right people and put together a fun party. So so we were talking about Garage Bar. What happened? It was successful. You were making money.
Garage Bar went great. I mean, it blew up. I mean, we expanded, built a patio in the first. We opened in Labor Day. Made squirreled away enough money on the side to open a brand new patio by Memorial Day of the spring. Wow, we were doing great. And then the place just blew up, and then we started looking to do another location, and ended up putting the second location of Garage, because everybody I know in the business was like, yeah, you should open another one. We did it in Columbus, and 6 weeks later, the economy took that first big hit, And
Was this '08?
Yeah, so we opened the bar in August of '08 in the Arena District of Columbus, Garage Bar number 2.
Yeah.
And literally 6 weeks later, the first crash happens in August. And then, so we got that going. Nobody at that point knew where we were concerned, but it wasn't like a given that this was not going to work out. January, I came back to Cleveland and started working on a restaurant called Dragonfly. And 90 days into that construction, that big March crash happened. So long story short, our company took on a giant loan, started 2 projects in the fall of '08, summer of '08 and spring of '09, and the world economy simultaneously tanked, and our loan went belly up. And this is that's, you roll the dice, sometimes you roll a 7. So, and that was kind of like the end of my 15-year ride. And so I haven't really tried to, or even had a serious conversation about opening another place or being that person again. I've shifted to a new career.
Well, it's interesting that we're talking now in 2020 during this COVID-19 thing, because obviously this is a huge crisis taking place worldwide.
Right.
And the last one I remember was 2008.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this is even bigger. That was this is, there's a monumental disruption.
There's a few,
right?
Yeah, monumental things I remember, growing up. It's 2008, and then it's 9/11.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah, cultural level, cultural shifting level events. I mean, the world is not the same anymore.
Right.
So anyway, so that's kind of what happened. So between the original garage and the plans for expansion and the bad timing, the company kind of folded, and I kind of inadvertently retired from being the ownership and the driving force behind one of these things. And now I've shifted gears later, and I just, I'm not in the game, but I still pay close attention. I still buy records all the time. So I'm still the same person.
Right.
But yeah, so who knows? It'll be interesting to see when, it probably won't be this year, but next year when there's a vaccine and things start to look normal, it'll be interesting to see what people will be interested in supporting,
Right.
And I hope, I'm praying that music becomes important again.
I think when you take away something from people, obviously when you can get it back, you appreciate it even more. I'm reading about concerts and people not being able to go see bands or even DJs anymore. And it's like, when that comes back, I mean, I hope people really cherish it. Anything you want to add to this conversation? Anything you want to shout out? Anybody you want to shout out?
I want to shout out everybody. Liquid Living, all the people I met when I moved to Cleveland. I've been here since '95, so that's 25 years. This is my home, and I raised a family here. I'm a grandfather. I'm all in Clevelander, not from here. I'm an adopted son, and I'm so proud to be part of Cleveland's history. And I'm actually optimistic about the future. On the other side of this, I think in a way there's a correction that's going on. There were way too many bars and restaurants anyway. Right. I don't want anybody to lose their job or whatever, but I think it's going to be fun to see where this goes. And I'm looking forward to the future and glad to be a Clevelander. Let's have a party.
Definitely. So what are you doing these days? How can people get a hold of you if they want to rap a little bit?
So I'm on Facebook, and I sell health insurance for a living. So you can just look up JeffAllisonInsurance.com.
Okay.
Find my website, and you can Google me. I'm easy to find. Hit me up. Let's go have a beer.
Definitely. All right.
Right on.
Well, hey, man, I really appreciate it.
Shout out to Liquid Living and Jude and Sean Carson and all the people that help make all these stories possible. The
Definitely.
crowds, the musicians, all of them, man, the DJs.
Those were good times, but I don't think they're over. I think there's going to be another chapter.
It'd be fun.
Definitely.
I'm older. I'm not dead. All right, man.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.